Hey everybody. So for this week's discussion on denominational diversity, I decided to choose the Episcopalian Church to kind of highlight and look into some of the stuff that they were getting up to. My main focus is kind of in the 1800s. I'm a Baptist, and this is very much out of my realm, but with our final project, I've been researching a lot on the anti-slavery movement, and I found a really good resource by Reverend, Matlock, that is kind of discussing like his experiences as a preacher during this time, and he specifically goes into the Episcopalian Church because that's the kind of preacher he was. In his book, he mentions one of his own congregations, individuals, a man by the name of Brother Everett is the only way we're ever described to him as. But what we get is he apparently it was this, Sunday, it was the Sabbath. He was reading his Bible late, and he just kind of sort of came to the conclusion of like, hey, slavery is really bad. I shouldn't be doing this. And the next morning went and just completely was like, hey guys, he didn't technically free them like all the way. He let them go if they wished, but he offered them pay like as a working individuals instead of that. And we see this happening a lot. Like he specifically mentions when asked, Brother Everett does, I didn't read anywhere. No one told me that this was bad. It just kind of came to me. And so I think that this level of kind of subconscious idea of, the anti-slavery movement kind of taking hold in the Episcopalian Church was a big deal. Another of my resources that I found was kind of discussing the split of the Episcopalian Church. They started breaking off, and we had black and white Episcopalian churches crop up around the start of the 1800s, moving into, the anti-slavery movement for sure. But it was, in the beginning, they all started as, having a mixed congregation of really kind of people didn't mind too much. It was just a fact of life. And then when it started becoming an issue, it started becoming an issue. And it really, pushed a lot of that flame and fire into the people, which was going on all over the place. Like, this was not an Episcopalian only kind of thing. But of course, with this, it's just, your religious background is going to have a very big impact on your government creation, your law creation, everything. And so, really interesting stuff. Another thing that I found really fascinating was in a specific resource talking about their censorship. So we start seeing some early forms of censorship in this, specifically in regards to their prayer book. So their prayer book has two specific words that people took issue with, supposedly. It was regeneration and priest being the big one, because they had tried so hard to get away from the Catholic ideals and this and that, and priests were just your average Joe. They wanted it to stay that way, but when this prayer book started mentioning priest, it kind of equated them to God's mouthpiece in a way. And it really, put some bees in some bonnets. And it was honestly funny at the time. Reading back, it's interesting that they find this one word being such a thing. But, we're seeing this kind of effects now. Single words have changed completely, the definition. I mean, the word gay used to mean funny and happy. Now it's something completely different. So with them, they take that word and they attempted to eradicate it completely, which was interesting. And of course, the Episcopalians fought back because that was their prayer book, and they're like, it doesn't matter the language that we're using. This is just the language of the writers. But it was a big deal, and we saw a big push for censorship. So I thought that was really fascinating too. They eventually managed to keep it, and everything was hunky-dory, sort of. But that's a little bit of a long spiel that I don't need to go into. But either way, we're starting to finally see, with the creation of government, with the creation of the United States as a whole, this very big religious centerpiece. And I think the Episcopalians definitely fit into that kind of argument very nicely. But anyway, have a good day. Bye, everybody.